Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be talking to you guys about my time in the beautiful city of Prague in the Czech Republic. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw photos of me eating gelato, walking in these sprawling gardens with fountains, and being on the European trams, and eating at restaurants by the lake. And, well, I did do all of that, but there's also a side of me in Prague that I did not necessarily post on Instagram. I decided to make a video about it because this incident happened over a year ago and I still think about it every single day. I was in Prague for 6 weeks last summer. I was there for a Shakespeare performance intensive. Would take like master classes and these intensive theatre training classes during the day and rehearsals in the evening for professional production, which would then go up in one of the biggest theatres in Prague. So needless to say, that was like an opportunity for a lifetime and I got so much out of it and there's so much to be grateful for. And I do look back at my time in Prague with fondness. However, for some context, at this point I had been acting and doing theatre for less than a year, so I did not have a lot of experience. When I got there, I quickly realized that the cohort that I was with was way more experienced than I was. There's people from like really reputable theatre schools in the US and there was people who had like done Netflix films, and I immediately started comparing myself to all of these people who were clearly way ahead of me in this path, and that was my first mistake. And along with this, I do feel a little iffy talking about this, but the program was very white. There was maybe around like 30 people and there was probably like 4 people of color. For a lot of reasons, I just felt very inferior. This was like a feeling that I was bottling up for a while. And along with that, so basically you had auditions on the first day of the program and then they would put you into different productions. You don't feel the best when you're like cast in a production in a not very significant role. It feels kind of weird when you are in a program that is production based and you don't have a significant enough role in the production. Like for the first few weeks, for the first 2 weeks I would say, I just felt like I was in the morning like learning all of these beautiful things about Shakespeare, falling in love with Shakespeare and language and how rich it is for the actor, and just geeking out essentially. And then not having any place to apply the knowledge that I was learning. My dad always says this to me and I totally stand by the statement, which is, if you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I was like, the fact that I am the least experienced here is a good thing because I get to learn so much from my peers. And part of me was just so marveled and like amused by these beautiful actors who were also all gorgeous, by the way. Anyway, part of me was also just like, I wish I got to do that role. That is not to say that my whole experience was like bad. I still had the opportunity to work with some amazing directors. One of the most beautiful productions I've ever been part of. It was amazing. I just wish I got to do more. Anyway, all of this led to just me feeling not the best about myself and constantly being surrounded by people who were doing really well for themselves. Or at least that's what I thought at the time. However, one fine day we had a master class with this amazing woman. She had a class with us, but instead of teaching what she was going to, she decided to just open up the space to any questions that we may have for her. And it could literally have been anything. You could talk to her about something about Shakespeare, something about acting. I remember like thinking to myself like, should I express my frustrations to her? Should I do this? And also there's like 25 other people in this class right now and we're all sitting in like this confessional circle, but like whatever. Something in me just like happened and I was like, I have something to say. And I started off with, how am I supposed to be in a program that's based on like a production-based learning approach when I don't have a significant role in the production? When I said this out loud, in the middle of like a room full of people I was constantly comparing myself to for like the past 3 or 4 weeks, and they were all looking at me. It was just so overwhelming that like I started crying. And I think I said something like, oh, I feel like I'm constantly comparing myself to people and just feeling all of this self-doubt and I'm just not having a good time. I don't know what I said or what happened, but I just remember going from like my voice cracking to going to like full on ugly crying. It was not like that one tear streams down your face and you wipe it off and it's like, it's all okay. No, it was my whole entire face was stained with tears. My nose was running, couldn't breathe properly. Went from 0 to 100 in like no time. See, here's the great thing about actors. We're the worst, but we're also the best, because we will create space for people who are going through an emotional breakdown or an emotional period. We will hear you out. So while I was going through this whole spiel, not once did I feel like anyone was judging me. The instructor gave me some really good advice. It made me realize that I wasn't alone in feeling this. I remember she turned to the room and she was like, who else feels this way? And almost everyone put their hand up. After all of this happened, I think people reacted in one of two ways. People either were like, okay, she's going through something, we're gonna give her space, or people just felt way more comfortable opening up to me about things that they were dealing with in this program. In like the second half of the program, a lot more students had joined who were younger than me, or not as experienced as most of the people in the program, so it had sort of evened out. And I remember a lot of them had come up to me and they were like, we feel the same way, we've been feeling this way for a while in this program as well, and you're not alone. And yeah, it just made me feel extremely validated. The thing that it's really interesting that because of an incident where I was vulnerable, I now have a thicker skin. It's like a little ironic and a little contradictory, but it just so worked out that way. And a couple of weeks ago, actually, I took an acting class in Mumbai, like online. My acting teacher in that class said, sharing is power. Did I share that day? And it did make me feel really empowered. I feel like in India, crying is something that is heavily stigmatized and it is seen as being weak, but I really don't think so. I am someone who gets easily emotional, and I have said this multiple times that hey, I may cry, but like don't treat me any differently because it's just a thing that I'm doing, okay? Like it's like coughing, okay? Literally just an action, and it's okay. And I feel like people should do it more often because here's the difference. I feel like a lot of people also associate crying with asking for sympathy. It's not always the case. Sometimes you're just crying because you need to. A couple months ago, I read this book called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. There's this passage in that book which really resonated with me, and I actually read it out in one of my vlogs. I'll link it up here. And it basically said that when we start out a new creative project or start exploring a new talent, we compare ourselves to people that we look up to. And, you know, we have heard the phrase, don't compare yourself, just mind your own business. But she explains why we compare ourselves and why we're disappointed with our progress or success. For example, say you want to start a YouTube channel and you have a video that you filmed and you have it and ready to go. But you watch that video and you're like, this is not as good as, I don't know, Best Dressed, PewDiePie, whoever you watch. And so I'm not going to upload it because it's not as good as their videos. But what we don't realize is that they have been in this business for so long and they have had so much practice. So it's kind of like we're comparing our step 1 to their step 500. And that's not fair to you, because of course your product is not going to look as good as front of theirs. But if you keep at it and you keep creating, it will eventually get better. And that is what I was doing. I was comparing my step 1 in acting to someone else's, like, step 15. I instead should have been focusing on the fact that I was even in that room in the first place. that's an accomplishment. That's an accomplishment in and of itself, regardless of what kind of role I do. The thing that I learned from that experience is that, as cheesy as this sounds, while you're walking into like an interview or an audition, you need to bring a lot of love with you in the room. You need to walk in with like kindness and warmth, and the way you see yourself and the way you express yourself sometimes is way more important than how good or bad, how talented you are. And I decided to try that. For the next audition that I went to, I'm just gonna go have fun and not walk in as like a ball of insecure nerves. So I did that and I got the part, and that opened the gate to like more opportunities, and now I'm so happy. I did roles that I'm proud of. I learned a lot in the process, made friends, and it was great. So that was the time that I cried in a foreign land, and it was an experience to remember. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have had similar experiences, feel free to comment down below. See you guys soon. Bye!